I quietly left after discovering my wife's affair. A year later, she came back asking for forgiveness and hoping to reconcile. After learning of my wife's adultery, I moved to the hills. I am not sure why I am writing this, but perhaps it will be useful to someone now that the situation has passed and I have moved on. After 3.5 years of marriage, I discovered my wife's affair in February 2018. I worked a contract job that periodically required extensive travel but also allowed me to work from home when I returned. My position as the director of a technical sales company was both hard and flexible. My wife maintained a highly profitable position. Although things had gotten a little strained as she worked longer and longer hours and I traveled for work, we still had what I would consider a fairly good marriage. Background: 5 years ago, during a cookout held by a mutual acquaintance, I met my wife, who is now my ex. We hit it off right away once we started conversing. To be honest, I thought being with a lady who was both attractive and articulate was a great advantage. She seemed to like my rough around the edges personality. After a few weeks of dating, we were charmed with each other. When we met at each other's apartments, the clothing just flew off. After 18 months of dating, we married and moved into a spacious apartment while saving for a down payment on a house. Things started to alter after the first 3 years of marriage. Even though I still had affection for her, I noticed that she argued over minor issues. When I mentioned all the late hours and increasingly frequent work outings, she became enraged. Since she was climbing up the corporate ladder, she would explain that it was a necessary component of paying the dues, or so she thought. She told me that since I was also gone for weeks at a time, I had no right to challenge her. In truth, I had only been taking 3 or 4 days off every 5 weeks or so. So I promised her that I could absolutely cut back on my commute time. There was no conclusion to these exceedingly circular arguments. Looking back, I realized I was completely oblivious that my wife was having an affair. Aside from our decreasing sexual relationship and her continuously late work hours, I would never have guessed anything. I just figured she was exhausted from her job. But being rejected so frequently when I attempted to initiate a sexual relationship had taken a toll on my ego. Although she had a business phone and may have been using it, I did not see the covert texting that I had read about in other publications. She used our spare bedroom as a home office and spent a lot of time in it. Kathy began returning home after work in September 2017 and instead spent the evening at a work engagement. This rose from 1 night per week to more than 3 evenings each week. Although I am not typically envious, she would surely be noticed by others. And I am aware that she will need to repel some of the males at her workplace. Despite working with more male CEOs than female CEOs, she gave the impression that she was solely interested in her profession. I originally believed she was cheating about a month before D-Day. Before coming home, she made a quick stop at the store. I was asked to help her with the food shopping. As I was getting some belongings from the back seat, I noticed something pink glinting just beneath the front passenger seat of her car. This was a bra. A bra belonged to my wife. She preferred ones from a specific clothes store, so I knew they were hers. Looking back, I see the bra was a warning sign. When she's feeling particularly amorous, she always takes her bra out from underneath her clothes first. I'm not sure why, but seeing this made me sick to my stomach right away. I didn't understand why her bra was under the seat. I said nothing more. My heart must have been beating so fast that I almost passed out. Because when I returned the bags to the kitchen, Kathy asked how I was doing and mentioned that I appeared to have seen a ghost. I just ignored her remark. It took everything I had to hide my feelings, but I tried not to appear offended or fooled. I decided to try to find out if she was seeing anyone. That night and the next day, I began to evaluate all of the signals I could have missed. Aside from the bra, I had no evidence. She works in a downtown office building, and we live in a relatively large city. I decided to temporarily put the affair out of my mind and explore giving her more of my time. I prepared a delicious supper and set the dining table with elegant plates, silverware, and candles. One Friday after work, I bought a bouquet of flowers and a wonderful bottle of wine. When she arrived, I showed her the supper and all I had prepared, as usual, breezing in after work. She apologized and expressed her regret, but she needed to go to a neighborhood hangout to meet up with her coworkers. She said she needed to take a shower first, but she could share a small snack with me before leaving. I guess I fell completely silent because my insides turned on me. I won't go into detail about how angry I was at the time, but I'd had enough. I took my work cell phone and dumped it in her backseat while she was showering. I had considered using my own phone to trace her. I then went into the kitchen and tossed away the food and flowers. After taking a shower, she prepared and looked gorgeous, as usual. "All right, let's eat," she replied. "Never mind. Go out with your friends," I said. She inquired whether I was angry after giving me a strange expression. I'm sad that you never want to do anything with me, I told you. She became agitated and remarked cynically on my short fuse, ordering me to quit acting like a child. Foolish me, I said as I stood there, letting everything sink in. For once, I thought we should spend the evening together. She merely smiled and stormed away. When she left, I grabbed out my second phone and started following my work phone. I caught her stopping about 20 minutes away, at the bar where she frequently meets with her coworkers. I decided to go find her car. Indeed, it was in the bar's parking lot. I waited in my car across the street to see if I could find her. I felt really different, like a stalker. But I told myself I needed to soothe my fears about her whereabouts. I saw her leaving the bar with a man approximately an hour after I arrived. He looked like an executive from her company. He grabbed her, dragged her closer, and planted a kiss on her lips. My body became completely numb. My stomach began to tighten up. They walked to another vehicle and hopped inside together. When their car pulled away, I attempted to catch up with them. You guessed. They drove to a hotel 10 minutes away. As I parked on the street next to the hotel, I observed them depart the car holding hands and walk inside. I had seen enough. I felt ridiculous. I started banging the steering wheel with my fist. That was it. Something went completely blank inside of me. I'm not sure whether I had an out-of-body experience or simply passed out. However, as I regained consciousness, I felt the want to drink. At this point, my life took an unexpected turn. I'd just begun driving, out of town, replaying all I had just seen. I was crying out of both fury and despair. I hate to acknowledge it. I found a nice tiny tavern on the outskirts of town. Some 30 miles away, they stopped in. I ordered a drink while sitting at the bar. The bartender, a lady, commented on how I appeared to have lost my wind. So I guess I resemble death. I responded, partly smiling. You could say that. A man sat beside me and began a chat. Even though I didn't feel like speaking, something about this guy made me feel at peace. We initiated a chat, and finally, my wife's unfaithfulness came up. I told him I just wanted to get away from her and forget about her. You're not alone, buddy, he answered, patting my back. After giving me a cursory look, he said, I went through that a few years ago. I believe there is a reason why these things occur. Your life may now take a favorable or negative turn. I promise you, at this moment, everything is completely up to you. His words, for some reason, startled me out of my funk. Despite being conscious of my agony, I've always had the ability to see things rationally, and he was totally right. We introduced ourselves. Rai was his name. I truly liked his salt-of-the-earth attitude. Even though he was more of a country boy. Are you planning to move out? He inquired. I suppose. I never considered looking that far ahead. I was experiencing a fight-or-flight response. And I realized I didn't want to be around this woman any longer. I've got an idea. And I sympathize with your situation, Rai said. When the time comes, I have a mobile trailer on my land, in case you feel the need to go, Rai told him. It might take some effort and isn't very excellent. Why don't you come and see if you can envision yourself short-living in anything like that? I'll give you a great deal on it, at the very least. You could even park it on a beautiful piece of land I own. I'd be grateful if you could watch it for me. It may be helpful to get out of your current situation. Only a thought. I took a while to grasp his concept. Hell, honey, if I could have escaped my insane ex-husband years earlier, I would have jumped at the chance to go live in his trailer, or anywhere, just to get my head on track. The bartender, who had been listening in, added his own comment. Perhaps this is just what I needed. But I felt like I'd strayed into the twilight zone. Yes, I will think about it. Maybe check it out, I said to Rai. After a time, we broke up and planned to meet at his house in a few days. I began to feel as though I had some perspective. And an opportunity to escape what I thought was dreadful grief and horror. I knew one thing for certain, I'd never want to spend time with my wife again. I find cheating nasty. And that was always something I imagined I'd never have to put up with. I sat on the couch when I got home that evening. Kathy walked out and inquired where I had been. Where have you been? I should be asking you that, I responded, turning to face her. I went to grab drinks, she explained. I directly inquired. Are you having an affair? She looked astonished. But she quickly gathered herself and replied, No. Why are you asking me that? I told her that I'd heard she might be seeing someone at work. Who told you this? She asked. Someone I know, I responded, keeping the name to myself. You're being ridiculous, she said. Then they accused me of being inebriated and deranged. She asked where I had been. We were going to a bar to enjoy some drinks with our friends, I told them. Despite her clear eagerness to ask further questions, she returned to our bedroom and retired to bed. Now that I had proof she had been lying to me for months, I decided to sleep on the sofa. I couldn't sleep at all. I kept seeing her in bed with the guy. I felt bad for myself. Disgusted. Hurt. But then I thought of Rye's trailer. The thought of that made me happy. It seemed almost like a revelation. Something must be wrong with me. Because the fight or flight reaction had immediately awakened amid the pain I was feeling, and I definitely preferred the flight response. We did not talk much the next morning. We moved on with our weekend as if nothing had happened. I set up a meeting with Rye a few days later. When I got there, I discovered Rye had a beautiful ranch. The trailer was actually fairly nice, about 26 feet long and well furnished. It reminded me of a fantastic spring break vacation I took with friends while in college. Rye accepted the money I gave for the trailer. To be honest, I felt like I was taking something from him. He gave me directions, so I drove over to inspect his ranch property. There were hiking and biking trails nearby, and the scenery was beautiful, with plenty of trees and scrub vegetation. Rye had a little cabin on a hilltop overlooking the property, with electricity and water available to the trailer. It was near the foothills of various mountains. Rye offered to set up the trailer and transport it to the place. I tried to convince Kathy to come clean over the next few weeks, but all I got was gaslighting. I even told her outright that if I found out she was cheating, there would be no turning back. As a result, she got even more immersed in her affair fog, lashing out at me with denials. I almost chuckled at how horrible the denial was. I chastised myself for not taking photographs of the two of them. I had no concrete evidence that she had cheated. After suffering through so much emotional anguish, I realized I wanted to leave this marriage. Instead of articulating my feelings to Kathy, I just started plotting. While she was at work, I quietly began collecting my belongings from the apartment and transferred them to the trailer. At the very least, I felt I was doing something about it. I saw a difference in Kathy around this time. Although she had been acting more respectfully towards me, I felt it was too little, too late. I thought I needed a break too, so she continued to go on company trips after work. One night, I got ready right as she was leaving. After staring at me, she asked about my destination. All I said was, meeting with some buddies? You wouldn't like the shop talk, and you don't know them. I interrupted her as she started asking additional questions. She used to say exactly this to me whenever I asked if I might accompany her on office trips. All right, have a good time, she said, a little annoyed. I definitely will, I said. I met new people while working on the trailer and hanging out with Rye at the bar. I felt better after spending time with Rye's lovely family and friends. I also decided to cut back on my drinking because I did not want to develop any bad habits. I knew better than to drown myself in sympathy, even though it would have been so easy. At this point, Kathy informed me that she would be on business next week. She indicated that the executive team and a few department heads were leaving. When I inquired, "Who's going?" I added, "I hope you have a great time with your boyfriend," he said, staring at her. I immediately regretted saying that, as it sparked a heated fight. However, Rye had advised me that it didn't really matter. I regret not learning more about her affair partner, AP. It doesn't matter who the other guy is, Rye explained. The only thing that matters is that she chose to leave you. She ended the marriage, whether she admits it or not. Brother, facts are facts. Rye should publish a book for the betrayed. Damn it, I had the perfect opportunity to relocate completely during Kathy's business vacation. When she left, I gathered all of my valuable possessions. Clothing, laptop computers, and other equipment are all included. I did not take any shared belongings or furniture. I left a note before leaving. Initially, the explanation was extensive. But I choose to keep it brief. I wrote, "I hope it was worth it," on a sheet of paper. On top of the note, on the kitchen table, I set my wedding ring. As I departed, I felt as if a heavy weight had been lifted. I was liberated. The hurt would take time to heal, and there would be baggage to deal with, but I'd started. I needed time for myself. And to get rid of her quickly and silently. The fact that I hadn't confronted her or forced a confession didn't make me proud. I had not screamed or shouted. She did not deserve it, in my opinion. She discarded all we owned, including our intentions for the future, our goals for a home and a family. And suddenly everything was gone. There was no turning back. I owed her nothing. She could deal with the repercussions. I hadn't prepared anything or contacted a lawyer. I just wanted a fresh start and some clarity. The air from the highlands was exactly what I needed. When I entered my trailer, I resumed running the following week, And it felt amazing to be alive. Kathy texted something like, "We just landed. We're having a team dinner," and so on, while she was gone. "Where are you?" was the question in a couple emails. "Why haven't you gotten back to me?" I didn't respond. When she arrived home, my phone exploded with calls and texts. She kept attempting to contact me, but I ignored her. Her mother also attempted to call me after the first day. But I did not pick up. She did not attempt to engage my father. Because we're not close, he is the only family member I still have. Her communications became increasingly frantic after being ignored for a week. "What is this?" This was one of the texts she sent. "We must speak. I'm not sure what you believe you know, but nothing is happening. There isn't an affair going on." After a week of not responding, she eventually texted me and said, "I apologize. Things got out of hand. It didn't matter if I was involved with someone at work. You were missing frequently while I was engaged with my work. I simply made a mistake. I intended to end it. A mistake. I was waiting for this confession all along. However, it simply served to increase my dislike for her. Why was she unable to be honest? I had no fantasies about a future with this woman. Errors do not last for 6, 8, or 12 months. Her pleadings for me to return and work on the marriage were increasingly sad. I refused to respond to her. Even though she had quit bothering me for a few weeks, I did not want her to learn where I lived. Or to probe into my life. I did not want this woman to damage my haven. Then she started sending abusive texts like this. "You're a coward. One day you refused to speak to me. You have no regard for us. Come home, please, so we can discuss. You're where I'm able to visit you, Paul. Please let's chat and make things right, damn it." However, I don't recollect all of the texts. They all seem to be excuses. With minimal genuine regret. In one ear, I let them go, and out the other. After a while, I changed my mobile number. Update, June 2018. I got an email from Kathy. She informed me that she had hired a lawyer. I was planning to file for divorce. I simply said, "Okay. That sounds good." This resulted in a flood of emails. Requesting that I visit her, among other things. She wrote that she will quit bothering me if I agreed to an uncontested divorce. Upon recognizing that this would not work, and when I gave my consent, I was actually liberated. A few months after I moved out of our apartment, I never had to see her again. She appeared to care more about that than I did. Even though neither of us had found closure. I'd occasionally think of her for a few months, and, indeed, anguish would suddenly come to me. Like when I heard a song that we used to like. However, over time, I just stopped thinking about her. Update 2, now that I am officially divorced, things are going well. In fact, I got to know a great girl. Just down the hill from my home, I was running along the trail. When I assisted her in replacing a flat tire, we hit it off. Despite being a few of years younger than me, she is fantastic, and really cute. She refers to me as her mountain man. And loves my way of life. Although I am not in a rush to commit, I also do not intend to give up on women completely. I have no intention of leaving the trailer anytime soon. I adore being outside and have simplified my life. It made everything easy for me. Including my pain and ex-wife. I understand that everyone responds differently to these situations. I was lucky to be in the 3rd year of my marriage, and not yet a parent. I feel I behaved in my best interest. You do not have to spend your entire life with a cheater. If you encounter something similar, avoid overthinking it. Continue to live your life. It will improve as you become more proficient. I hope that everyone has the best possible life. I updated this about 5 times to make it readable. And I just wanted to inform you on my ex-wife's condition. I was scared that my ex-wife was trying to find me. As I mentioned in an earlier post, I left our former residence, which was around 2 hours away. I saw her last weekend at a coffee shop. I frequently visit the town close to my home. It did not seem like a coincidence to me. Fortunately, I was able to slip away before she noticed me. Third update. I went to town this past weekend to acquire groceries. And I stopped at my usual coffee shop. I was using their free internet. Work on some papers for work. I finished and walked out of the cafe. I was on the way to my pickup. When I heard someone shouting, "Paul!" When I turned and looked across the street, I saw Catherine. My ex-wife waved at me. Finally, Armageddon arrived. She hurried across the street to me. I stood there in disbelief as if anticipating a hug. She walked up and extended her hand. I halted her in her tracks. By instinctively holding out my arms, palms up. She appeared to be in tremendous discomfort. Then she continued. I've been looking for you, Paul. I've wanted to see you since I learned you moved here. Could we have a conversation? Guys, I felt like an animal locked in a cage. Yes, I did. All right, let us find a table or something, and we may speak for a minute. I finally gave in. She asked if we might come to my house. I vehemently refused. By the end of the street, she brought me down to a bench outside a tiny store. She began by noting how much I had changed, and how much she adored my new look, beard and degree of fitness. She exclaimed at how much my body had transformed. Wearing a tank top and little white shorts, and her hair in a ponytail, which I used to enjoy, she was definitely working the charm. I had my radar set to high. She was plainly trying to activate the sex appeal. I needed to restrain myself so I could see where this was going. She started by claiming she was sorry for the affair. She said that after I left, karma had a significant impact on her. When her employer discovered the romance, the scene grew really tense. She eventually resigned. Her affair partner, AP, who was then engaged, received criticism and was reassigned to another area within the organization. She responded by telling his fiancée the truth. After he accused her of everything, this forced them to split up. This is when she bowed her head and started to cry. I did not say anything. I just sat there, looking around. She stood up straight and gazed at me for a long. "What do you want from me?" I inquired. She told me that she did not intend to have an affair. She claimed that the company's politics and positions pulled her in, and that her AP used his charm and power to corrupt her. She admitted she felt she was taking advantage of him, as much as he took advantage of her. After I accused her of cheating, she indicated that she had planned to come clean. She drank after work to relieve the shame she felt at the time. She detested herself. She remarked that she felt really dumb, so alone, and as if her heart had burst with grief shortly after I left. She discontinued her friendship with her AP immediately. She believed she needed to find me, to determine whether there was any hope of reconciliation. Because I refused to speak with or contact her, she desired a fresh start. She hoped we could start again. Even though she knew we were divorced, I merely looked at her. Then I handed it to her. "You have no right to come out here and attempt to fix all the damage you've caused. Do you think I'll forget everything you did to end our union? As I have mentioned, we're done. If you cheated, forgiveness is not an option. This relationship will not be re-established. You killed it the moment you left me. You ruined everything we owned. How foolish do you think I am? One evening, I saw you enter a hotel with him. Were you aware of that?" I realized that people were beginning to notice. That my voice had become louder. She grabbed my arm and began crying. After letting her cry on my shoulder for a time, I pushed her away. "I deserve all of this," she said, looking up at me. "I'm confident I do. If nothing else, would you let me take you out to dinner?" "I'd rather not go. I'd like to chat further. I want to ensure that we are completely upfront about everything. You should spend more time with me than you have in the past. Please, Paul, I love you very much. Even though I understand you may not want to hear it. Before you went, I had no idea how much I loved you. You broke me just as much as I broke you. I am unable to forgive myself. And I don't want to, until I die." She began sobbing uncontrollably and hyperventilating. I picked her up and hugged her. It seemed like my only choice for comforting her. I knew then that I had wrecked her heart as much as she had broken mine. Walking, we found a nice area to continue our talk. "How did you find me?" I inquired after she calmed down. "Have you engaged a private investigator?" After some thinking, she replied. "No," she said with a tiny giggle. She clarified that she had asked how things were going when she ran into Stacy a few weeks earlier. Stacy didn't say she had noticed me. Kathy pressured her to give all of the information. I had warned Stacy not to tell her, so she was reluctant. But Kathy persevered. Stacy eventually gave up. But all she knew was that I lived nearby and visited town on her days off. She started coming here to check on me. I sort of giggled when she said that, thinking, damn, Stacy can't keep her trap shut. She reddened. We eventually opted to dine at a nice little restaurant with a patio. I made sure we didn't drink anything. I wasn't going to give her an excuse to be kind to me or claim she was too drunk to drive back. We had a good talk. I then walked her to her vehicle. She insisted that she hadn't dated anybody else since my departure, and declared vehemently that I was the one person she desired. She pressed me hard to stay longer. No, it's still way too early for me to go down that road, I told her. She pleaded with me to return, but I did not say yes. After I gave her my new email address, I said nothing more. I responded to her request for my phone number as follows. You'll just blow it up with texts and calls. She grieved about it. But in the end, she agreed with my decision. She agreed to send me an email, with details on returning to town the following weekend. Before she went, I questioned her directly. Would you have forgiven me if I had been the one cheating? Before getting into her automobile, she said, yes, in time. But only if we met with a marriage counselor and worked through the recovery process. With a lot of chatting. Perhaps even a binding agreement. She paused to reflect. All right, maybe I could do that in 5 or 10 years, came my reply. I'd wait if that's what it takes, she said. She then grasped both of my hands on her own. Looked me in the eyes and said, God damn it, Paul. I'll always adore you. And I'll do anything to prove it. This statement caught me completely off guard. Her statements continued to irritate me even after she left. She had uttered them so firmly. However, I was unable to see us rejoining. Although I felt better after the encounter, I couldn't see her as a friend at the moment. Maybe a friend someday. But even that was mysterious. I returned home. I enjoyed a lengthy run. Had some beer. And considered how far I had come. Could you please assure me that she would not disrupt the peace I had established for myself? I had no idea. I had the luxury of time to think through it and gain perspective. But everything was still too vivid in my imagination. Last updated. Most likely, this will be my last update. When I first shared my experience on Reddit, the moderators kept taking it down. In summary, I avoided my ex-wife for over a year before she discovered me. She wanted to make things right and start over with us. If you expected me to be the normal beta blue pill moron and forgive her, you will be very disappointed. She expressed her love and sadness about the affair. She sent me a lengthy email last week. She volunteered to come out and spend the weekend with me once more. What's my answer? I silenced her. I told her I had no plans to make amends with her. I'm completely happy living alone. Taking advantage of my remote location, and keeping it simple. At 32, I am not in a hurry to make changes. I have my own self-determination plan. And I've enjoyed the company of a few women and pals. I said that clearly in my email response. That I had no plan to reconcile, and declined to give her my phone number. I no longer know or trust you since you have made your bed. I wish the best for you. And perhaps we can become friends in the future. But not now. She was annoyed by my evasiveness, and answered in a telling manner. She admitted that she had accepted a job offer in another state. Her ultimate desire was for me to accompany her. Believing that my remote work would make the transition easier. She wanted us to start again somewhere new. She wanted to visit me in person and try to persuade me. Because she was running out of time before the move. Fortunately for me, her time was up. Because I had a week of business trips planned. I'm relieved she'll no longer be in my life. She will soon realize that her time with me is over. But I still expect to receive a few more emails. She'll need to find someone else. And she might also cheat on them. To everyone reading this, make the best of your life, let go of the past. Give yourself the strength to carry on. Good luck, everyone. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so and press the notification bell. To keep informed about more shocking real-life stories happening around you. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.